Dhamma Sabaai Sabaai. Dhamma Talk from the Buddha, November 21st, 2021. Parables on the danger of sensuality. Humans are indulgent, infatuated with, obsessed with, and attached to sensuality. The Buddha used a series of parables to stress the danger of sensuality in his teachings as follows. Sensuality as like a chain of bones, thoroughly scrapped, without any flesh, smeared with blood. A starving dog, gnawing on that chain of bones, would not appease its weakness and hunger, would get nothing but weariness and vexation, and worse, break its teeth. The parable describes anyone who thinks that a relationship or a marriage could lead to a true happiness. Once married, husbands and wives suffer all the time from worry, frustration, fuss and fighting, jealousy, possessiveness, and resentment, and in the worst cases end up committing suicide. The happiness that the married all hope for is short-lived, like the excitement or sense of happiness of a dog gnawing on a chain of fleshless bones, which quickly disappear after a short while. Sensuality as like a lump of flesh. Suppose a vulture, a kite, or a hawk, seizing a lump of flesh, were to take off, and other vultures, kites, or hawks, following right after it, were to tear at it with their beak and pull at it with their claws. If that vulture, kite, or hawk were to not quickly drop that lump of flesh, it would meet with death from that cause, or with death-like pain. The parable describes sensuality as something that one cannot fully possess or own, that can be seized by others, and that can lead to quarrels or fights any time, as it is something desired by other people too. Whether it be examples from ancient Chinese history about Chinese beauties who brought down entire empires, or the stories we frequently hear in the news about fights over a girl or a boy, they are all because of sensuality. Or have you ever heard of a hard-earned relationship of a couple who sacrificed so much to get married and be together? But the marriage ends shortly because the one partner falls in love with someone else. Marriage does not guarantee anything. Nothing is certain. The more beautiful or handsome one looks, the more danger. Therefore, sensuality is compared to a lump of flesh which can be seized by a vulture, a kite, or a hawk. Sensuality as like a man carrying a burning grass torch. A man were to come against the wind, carrying a burning grass torch. If he were not quickly to drop that grass torch, would he not suffer from smoke, heat, or burn his hand, or his arm, or some other body part of his body, so that he would meet with death from that cause, or with death-like pain? This parable explains those who become slaves to sensuality would suffer from sensuality just like those spouses who have to endure marital suffering to keep the marriage afloat. Once married, one must work very hard to provide for the wife and children, worrying about their living and future, whether the wife would be attracted to someone else, whether the children would misbehave, etc. On the other hand, even if the marriage is good, he would still suffer from separation from the loved ones because of death by accident, illness, or old age. It is only a matter of time before he has to throw that torch away. Sensuality as like a pit of glowing embers, deeper than a man's height. A man were to come along, loving life, hating death, loving pleasure, abhorring pain, knowing that if he were to fall into the pit, he would surely be gravely injured or die. But he would walk right into it anyway. There is a saying, where there is love, there is suffering. And we all know that it is the truth. But when one meets with a good-looking boy or girl, one totally forgets about the suffering part. Love makes you blind is true in the sense that those in love are blinded by defilements or desire for sensual pleasures, so that they do not see the faults of the people they love, regardless of the warnings from their parents or Kruba Ajahn. When it comes to marriage, the decision is made based on the external appearances and without taking into account the pain and suffering which accompanies romantic love and marriage. Sensuality as like a dream. A man, when dreaming, may see a delightful landscape, and on awakening would feel empty and wish they could keep on dreaming a little longer. In the same manner, those indulging in sensuality, such as a couple who feel very happy and talk nicely to each other at the start of a relationship, soon after experience offensive language, quarrels, and even physical abuse, and the happiness they have dreamed of is gone. This parable is thus used to compare sensuality to a dream. It is up to one to live in a dream or in a reality. If one wishes to live in reality, one shall continue to practice pure conduct, brahmacharya. Sensuality as like borrowed goods. A man having borrowed some goods is surrounded by them, and people seeing him would say, "How wealthy this man is, for this is how the wealthy enjoy their possessions." But the actual owners, whether they might see him, would strip him then and there of what is theirs. With borrowed goods, a man can only temporarily and fractionally enjoy the borrowed goods, as he does not have the absolute claim of ownership over them. In the same manner, one may be so proud of his or her partner's attractive appearance at the moment, but as time goes by, it is unavoidable that he or she would grow old, out of shape, with a big belly, and become wrinkled. Physical beauty is impermanent and returns back to nature over time. Why would one waste time obsessing over these borrowed goods? Sensuality as like a fruit-laden tree. Now suppose that there was a fruit-laden tree in a dense forest grove. Any man searching for fruit would do whatever it takes, climbing the tree or even chopping down the tree to get the fruit. A man up in a fruit-laden tree is threatened with danger or death, when another, desiring fruits and unable to climb, axes it down. The falling tree would crush the hand, foot, or the body, and could lead to the death of the man on the tree. In the same manner is the example of a man who, merely approaching a girl, got beaten up by another man who desired the same girl. One shall be careful with a tree with delicious and abundant fruit. The more delicious and abundant, the more careful one should be of such a tree. Sensuality as like a butcher's knife and a chopping board, as whoever gets infatuated with sensuality suffers physical and mental wounds, as if having their life on a chopping board, being chopped over and over by a butcher's knife. Sensuality as like a spear or a lance. Like the wounds to the body caused by a spear or a lance, whoever gets involved in sensuality would surely suffer mental wounds, as if pierced by a spear or a lance. Sensuality as like the head of a poisonous snake, constantly causing distrust, unrest, doubtful mind. Sensuality is a grave risk to our welfare. Being near a poisonous snake, one cannot feel peaceful, as the snake can bite any time and can cause death. Therefore, sensuality is compared to the head of a poisonous snake. These 10 parables offer some examples of the Buddha's teaching about the danger of sensuality. The danger of sensuality is, in practicality, incalculable and far greater than even the above examples.